What's up, everybody? For those of you that don't know, this is the Fantasy Baseball Show, and I'm your host, Sean Nugent. I love all the feedback I've been getting from you guys. Lots of love. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get right into it. Today, I'll be going over Outfield for the 2021 baseball season. I generally try to focus on roto leagues for these videos, and because of that, stolen bases are something I prioritize. But I do think when I compare myself to other fantasy players, I think I tend to maybe undervalue stolen bases a little too much. But I think I'm just a little too scared to pay up for stolen bases. So I'll give an example right here. Mookie Betts is ranked the second ranked outfielder according to ADP data. He's maybe going to get 20 steals, 25, 30 home runs. But I would take Juan Soto. I know that it's not too much to talk about. Juan Soto's right there. But Mike Trout going 3 picks after Mookie Betts. I would take Trout over Mookie Betts. I think Trout has a 45 to 50 home run season in him, and that's something Betts will never do. And I guess what I'm trying to say is people are picking Mookie Betts over Mike Trout because Mookie Betts is going to steal 10 more bases. I as opposed to the shortstop videos where I really like Trey Turner, Turner's the kind of guy that can steal 40 bases. And it's something I try to point out in these videos is how these prices for these guys going to inflate it when it's 15 to 20 stolen bases. And like I said, I get they need the category, but Harper steals 15 stolen bases. He's going to pick 20. So if you could pair Trout and Harper in a 10 or 12 teamer, I mean that's crazy. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying I don't like Mookie Betts, but right off the bat, one of the things I noticed, Mookie Betts going at third, Trout going at sixth. That's without a doubt the longest time I've been playing fantasy. That's the latest Trout's ever gone. He's basically been a consensus number one. I remember there was another year where Mookie Betts was up there, Altuve was up there. Getting to Acuna though, I agree with Acuna being the top-ranked outfielder and almost a top-ranked player in fantasy because Acuna has almost had a 40-40 season, 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. So I'll pay for that for Acuna. And in a standard 5x5, the on-base percentage that Trout gives you doesn't matter. That being said, in an on-base percentage league, I think Trout and maybe Juan Soto become the two top guys. Mookie Betts is still up there, and Acuna is with the steals, but the 400-plus on-base from Trout and Soto really separates them in an on-base percentage league. But Acuna is right with these guys in batting average. Acuna's a 280 hitter, maybe 270 if things don't go right. His on-base is probably 350, 360, but in a standard 5x5, that's not a big deal. But again, when I compare Acuna to Betts, Acuna is guaranteed to get at least 15 more steals. I don't think Betts is stealing more than 15, 20. Acuna has the skills. The Braves just got to let him run. And I just don't understand why Betts is that much, why he would be drafted before Mike Trout at all for those 5 to 10 steals that he'll be getting. I keep going down. I see Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger going before Bryce Harper. Yelich at 11, Bellinger at 15, Harper at 20. I said this last year, and I'll say it again. I would rather have Bryce Harper than Cody Bellinger. I think they basically they're kind of the same player, and if anything, Harper has a way safer profile. Bellinger has gotten shoulder surgery in this offseason, so I'm a little worried about that. And the steals from Bellinger, it was kind of a one and done. He gets the same amount of steals from Harper, 15. I think Bellinger may have had a 20-25 season, and everyone thought that was going to be the norm, but it's not looking like that. And Harper is just really a safer option. Again, in the on-base percentage league, Harper's a really good pick. And on Yelich, too. I know Yelich maybe had that 35-40 stolen base season in I think it was 2019 maybe, or 2018. And, he struggled last year. His on-base percentage was still fine. His skills still seemed okay. But Yelich is really on my do not draft list. He's going 11th overall. There's other guys, other positions I could take. I could take Freeman. I could take Jose Ramirez. I can get Trevor Story, Trey Turner, if I can get Cole or DeGrom. I'm really just I'm not crazy about Christian Yelich at 11, and he's probably on my do not draft list for this season. Do not draft list. Bellinger again on my do not draft list, but I'm never really a Bellinger guy. I would rather have Harper over both those guys. Chris Tucker going at 30. I understand that. The stolen base, he can have a 20-20 or 30-30 season. But I'm a little confused with the stuff with Luis Robert. His counting stats were there last year with 9 home runs and a 30-plus runs and RBIs. But a 233 average and a less than 300 on base percentage. For me to be drafting a guy going at 35, if I really want the steals, the 9 steals maybe that Luis Robert offered, I'll just get with Merrifield and sacrifice the power and make up for that later. Because in all honesty, I don't want a guy that's going to bat 233 and draft him at pick 35. And Luis Robert, I don't think he's a Joey Gallo 50 home run guy. You can get Joey Gallo at pick 130. I'll get to Joey Gallo later when we get to that ADP, but Luis Robert, pick 35, not a guy I like a lot. Eli Jimenez going at pick 35 too. They're just not guys I find myself drafting. I think because, especially with Eli Jimenez, there's no steals really. Luis Robert, at least he might have 25 steals, so I get the appeal there. I would rather have Kyle Tucker, of course, over both these guys. The ADP reflects that. Eli Jimenez is not a bad option, but this is a very deep position. I'll get to 5 guys later in this video that are going post pick 200 that you could really fill up in your Roto League. Most Roto Leagues have 5 outfield spots to fill. Other leagues have 3 outfield spots to fill. I think if you're playing in a Roto League with 3 outfielders, you want to avoid drafting more than 2 outfielders before pick 100. And, maybe try to draft your last one at the back end, a guy like Conforto or Castellanos. Because I've noticed myself, not anymore, when I used to first start, there's a lot of good outfield hitters. But outfielders, without a doubt, the deepest position later in drafts. There's guys you can get that have 30 home run potential with 90 RBIs that are going at pick 220. So really keep in mind in a draft, you might be saying, "Oh, I love this outfielder here. I love, like you might start off with Juan Soto and then you get Marcelo Ozuna. Like I'm a big Ozuna guy, but he's going at pick 47 now. His ADP jumped from about 50 from last year. He was at 100 last year. So keep in mind, if you're playing a 3 outfielder league and you fill 2 of those outfield spots in your first 4 or 5 picks, you're probably going to be lacking in other positions that don't have the depth. Shortstop. Once you get past pick 160, there's really no good shortstops to take. You got to pick your poison with them. Outfield is definitely not the same in that regard, and for that reason, Luis Robert, Eli Jimenez, I'm not really crazy about him. Even Whit Merrifield, I said I'd rather take him than both those guys because of the steals. But I don't find myself really taking Whit. He's 32, same age as Starling Marte. I'm really scared that both of those guys might fall off a cliff when it comes to the steals. Marte is going 10 picks later, but I think Merrifield has more stolen base potential. 32, you don't know. There's not a lot of 32-year-olds that are still stealing 25, 30 bases. So keep that in mind with those 2 guys. George Springer at pick 52 for Toronto. Very safe option, but again, like with Ozuna, to me, these guys are pretty vanilla, and I'll compare it again to Nick Castellanos and Michael Conforto. I really think George Springer and Ozuna are going to have this pretty similar numbers to Castellanos and Conforto when we get there later. Aaron Judge going at pick 57, the 15th outfielder taken off the board. I think Judge has great skills, but everyone knows this. The health concerns are very real, and I'll compare it to his teammate Giancarlo Stanton, who has the same health concerns and whose skills are just as good as Aaron Judge. But Stan's going to pick 110. So that tells me I'm never really in any of these guys, but I'll be on Stanton this year because I like that at pick 110. That guy can hit you 50. He's hit 60 home runs before. Going at pick 110, that is absolutely amazing value that you can get Stanton at. But that just tells me that I'm not picking Judge at all at pick 57. Both these guys have, I think, equal health concerns. Very tight calves. There's been rumors that they're doing yoga, reports they're doing yoga, or less lifting. That's great. I mean, I know I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years that these guys got to be doing yoga and going to dance stuff or something. Like these guys need to get their bodies right. I was very against the Stanton trade when the Yankees made it. I thought it'd be better if they went for a guy like Harper or even Machado. Those guys play their games. Harper and Machado play their games. But, Judge going at pick 57, Stanton going at pick 110. I'm taking Stanton instead of Judge. And that, to me, Judge is off my draft board. And similar thing what I was saying with George Springer and Marcell Ozuna. They're off my draft board because there's guys I can get later in the draft that have the same exact production. I don't want to pay this pick 57 price. I'm usually taking a pitcher here, one of those third basemen, someone that just gives me more and of an edge on my fantasy roster. Next 2 guys, pretty interesting guys, are Rosarena and Biggio. Both guys have 20 stolen base upside, so their ADP of 60 is pretty well justified. I can't see anything wrong with paying the price for a Rosarena. The skills are there. His plate discipline is really not as bad as some people think it is. He's shown in the minors that he can walk. He doesn't strike out too much. I'm a big fan of a Rosarena. I was a little worried about the offseason stuff, but that stuff seems to be cleared up. Biggio, though, I discussed it in my second base and third base. with the accusation of Springer and Simeon, Biggio's getting pushed down that lineup. And especially in a batting average league, I'm just not finding myself nearly as enthusiastic as for Biggio as I thought I was. And also reports of the dead end ball. I've heard someone from CBS, I think Chris Towers, say that Biggio might be really affected by that because he really doesn't hit, I guess, far home runs. Now, I don't know how true that is. The reports of the dead end ball could be greatly exaggerated. They're saying it could be 1 or 2 feet. And if I'm saying this with Biggio, then I really have to be saying that with every player. That means Whit Merrifield's only going to get 10 home runs. So, if you hear people using that dead end ball excuse to kind of avoid a player, I would take that with a grain of salt because you could really apply that to any player. All of these guys are going to have concerns if the ball gets dead end. Everyone's power is going to take some sort of hit. Guys like Harper and Trout, they're going to be hitting 35, 40 home runs, but everyone else is going to be suspect. So, keep that in mind. Next guy is Trent Grisham, 64 ADP. Again, this guy in the OBP league probably goes up 10 or 15 rankings to pick 15, but the batting average is 250. The stolen base, though, he's another guy, could steal 15 or 20 bases with 25 home runs. I love Trent Grisham, but I'm not going to pay the ADP for him right here. Same thing with Brandon Lau. I love these guys, but 64, 70, there's still guys later. I'll get to one of those guys right now. Michael Conforto. In the past 2 seasons, 2019 and 2020, Michael Conforto has 123 RBIs, which puts him 11th out of all outfielders in the past 2 seasons. Funny enough, the guy leading that charge, Eddie Rosario at 151, Mike Trout at 150, Juan Soto 147, Bryce Harper 147, Bellinger, Ozuna, Soler, Acuna, Springer, Blackmon, Conforto. So keep an eye on Soler and Eddie Rosario, 2 guys who are up there with some of the best at the position in RBIs. I know RBIs is not an end-all be-all, but I do think as fantasy players, and we all like to be savvy, myself included, we all like to be savvy, look at weighted runs created plus and all that. But unless you're playing on one of those auto-tuno leagues, you're using RBIs, runs, and home runs. Same reason maybe that I'm wrong in not liking guys like Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert was because their on-base percentage isn't as good as other guys, and because of that, the weighted runs created plus suffers and their OPS plus suffers. But I don't play in any fantasy leagues that use OPS plus or weighted runs created plus, and I do play in on-base percentage leagues, but in NFBC, it's standard 5x5. So keep that in mind. Michael Conforto, 11th most RBIs for outfielders in the past 2 seasons. Nicholas Castellanos going at pick 84. He's a guy that I would avoid in an on-base percentage league. But in a batting average league, the numbers they're just going to be there. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier. I want to compare for a second George Springer and Nicholas Castellanos the past 2 or 3 seasons. I'm really curious. What is the difference between both of these guys? Because the ADP says that Springer's 30 picks better than Castellanos. So that's a 2 or 3 round difference. You can get Castellanos 2 to 3 rounds after you can get George Springer. Castellanos did have a down 2020 with a 225 average. I mean down year, but with 14 home runs. 14 home runs, 37 runs, 37 RBIs. A 257 BABIP, lowest of his career. If that BABIP should go up to at least 300, and he's only had a BABIP below 300 once in his rookie season. So it goes up to 300. We're looking at that batting average going up to 270 with an upside of 300. And with that, I'm sure the RBIs and runs will improve. But let's see what Springer did last year and to see why the ADP is that big. Springer, 266 average, 14 home runs, 37 runs, 32 RBIs. So, and again, a 259 BABIP. So it was a lower BABIP for Springer too. So that 265 average again. We're looking like, Springer's a 300, maybe 270 hitter. But the 14 home runs, both these guys had the same amount of home runs, basically same amount of runs, RBIs. Springer only stole 1 base. Castellanos 0 bases. But weird to me. It's weird to me. I just want to make that point with Castellanos because everyone liked him last year, and I know his batting average wasn't there. He still hit 14 home runs in a 60-game season. That dude can hit 40 home runs. I think there's more pop in his bat than Springer's bat. So Castellanos and Conforto, I really want to get at least one of those guys in all my drafts. I've only done 2 or 3 drafts so far this year, and I really find it's hard to get these guys. Funny enough, Conforto's ADP is actually down 25. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Castellanos is down 6. But both of those guys, instead of getting Ozuna, instead of getting George Springer, instead of getting Judge, if you're not worried about steals, if you have a Trey Turner, if you have a Tatis or a Trevor Story, it doesn't really get any better than Conforto and Castellanos when it comes to runs, RBIs, and home runs. Two of my favorite guys to draft this season. That takes us to about pick 100. Some guys I like before pick 100, going between Castellanos and pick 100. Jeff McNeil, I've talked about him ad nauseum. Obviously, if the ball's getting dead and he's going to be a little screwed, but with Lindor hitting in front of him, I can see 100 RBIs for Jeff McNeil. Without a doubt, one of the best batting average players in the league. And Charlie Blackmon going at pick 90. I think this is the highest ADP I've ever seen Blackmon have. He used to be a second or third rounder. I know he's not stealing bases anymore, so I know it makes sense. He had a 303 average last year, only 6 home runs. I get that. Only 31 runs, so same amount of runs as Castellanos and Springer, but 42 RBIs. So the Coors Field is still in play. The 303 average was an amazing batting average. I'm trying to see if there was some type of skills decline. Strikeout rate was up 1%, but nothing out of the ordinary with his career. His walk rate, there's nothing to say. He's 1 year removed from a 32 home run, 112 run, 86 RBI season. I'm not getting it with Charlie Blackmon and why everyone's down on him. Career high line drive rate, career low home run to fly ball rate, except for his 2 first seasons. So he could even have more power. I could see him hitting 25, 30 home runs. Blackmon's not a guy I was really looking at. Okay, I see maybe the hard hit rate is down 10% from last year, 5% from his career average. So maybe people are concerned with his hard hit rate. Maybe the StatCast numbers suggest something. That he's only 34, so that is a little older than a lot of players. And Blackmon's not exactly some big bulking slugger. I get the age concern, but this is a guy who is easily going in the top 3 rounds for the past couple of years. Blackmon, I think, staying in Coors Field, that he's not leaving there. Very safe option at pick 89. Austin Meadows at pick 95 is kind of a hard guy to talk about. Of course, you have the Tampa Bay Rays kind of screwing around a lot of their guys. It's been a problem. It's one of the reasons I'm a little trepidatious. One of the reasons I'm a little afraid, basically, of drafting a Rosarena, because they seem to kind of fuck around with their guys too much. I think you kind of got to just let guys go and play. Meadows only played in 36 games last year. The plate discipline was awful. I mean, the walk rate was great, but 32% strikeout rate, sub 300 on base, only 4 home runs, and only 2 steals. I think a lot of people draft Meadows for those steals, and this is kind of crossing Meadows off my board now, because that 2019 season I really put him on the map. 12 steals, but 7 caught stealing. So Tampa Bay's not going to let him run. That was probably just a one-time thing. We're looking at a guy that maybe steals max. I mean, that was 12 stolen bases and 600 plate appearances. He's never going to get, I think, above 12 then. With 7 caught stealing, he had 2 last year at 1 caught stealing. Maybe something was wrong, but even in his best year, and his best year, as good as it was, 331 BABIP. So just keep that in mind with Meadows. This gets back to the point I opened my video with, where I think that we as a fantasy community kind of pump up a lot of guys that maybe steal 15, 20 stolen bases, and maybe there's no better example than Austin Meadows. One guy in particular that I'm going to talk about later is Clint Frazier. And Clint Frazier, probably he has better power potential, similar batting average potential, same runs, RBIs, probably more because in that Yankees lineup in that great ballpark. And he's probably going to honestly steal like 3 less stolen bases than Austin Meadows, but he's going 100 picks later. So Austin Meadows is on my do not draft list, even at pick 95. Maybe get your first reliever here, get another starting pitcher. Another guy going after Austin Meadows that's on my do not draft list, and this is going to sound crazy because I had him in my top 100 players coming into this season. I had some hot takes on my top 100, and I definitely refined my rankings by a lot. But Dominic Smith on the New York Mets, first base, outfield eligible. I'm a huge Dom Smith fan, absolutely love him. I personally think he's gonna have a better career than Pete Alonso, which is insane. Alonso hit 62 home runs in his rookie season. Dom Smith just looks really good up at the plate. He comes in clutch. But that 109 ADP, which is rising. That's a rising ADP. There's no spot for him on this team. Maybe I guess. Oh, maybe he's playing left field. I didn't even think of that. He's playing left field. But the Mets acquired 2 more outfielders in Alomar and Kevin Pillar. Nimmo has a 400 on base percentage, so it's gonna be hard to bench Nimmo. They're both lefties, so there's no easy platoon situation there. Maybe Dominic Smith starting left field, but his buddy Brandon Nimmo is going 100 picks later, and Nimmo will probably get more at bats. So I'm saying this because you're gonna be drafting a guy in the 6th or 7th round who might only get 400 plate appearances. That's not a smart fantasy move. I hate Eddie Rosario, but you might as well take Eddie Rosario. He's going to be getting 600 plus plate appearances. The counting stats will be there. Dominic Smith, I love him. The numbers there. If he plays, he's going to produce. I think he's a 30 home run, 90 RBI guy. He's great. I just don't know if the plate appearances are going to be there. I would like to see maybe what the projections think with him. One of the guys I look at a lot, or one of the projection systems I should say, is ATC. It's available on Fangraphs. Ariel Cohen is the main guy that helps create those projections. They have him slated for 520 plate appearances. So maybe I'm wrong. All the projections have him for 500 plus, 550. Steamer has 520. Zips has 540. So if he gets those plate appearances, then I get that ADP. I just don't see how he's getting those plate appearances unless they think Nimmo is not going to get 400 at bats. It's a crunch there with the Mets. McNeil has his spot. Conforto has his spot. Lindor has his spot. JD Davis has his spot. And funny enough, JD Davis is going later. Another guy I'll get to, JD Davis going later. But I want to go down the ADP list first. Dylan Moore, I talked about him. His ADP I think is going up a little too much, 114. I think he was going about 150 when I first started these videos, just to show you really how much movement happens from December to February. Almost getting into March at this point. We got a short month this in February. But 114 ADP. Moore's 28. I think some people view him maybe as this 23, 24-year-old. I know we can have late bloomers like Mike Yastrzemski, and I'm a big Yastrzemski guy. Funny enough, Yastrzemski's going 30 picks later. I know the steals aren't really there for Yastrzemski, but I would much rather have Mike. I like Moore. I get the steals, but it could easily be a flash in the pan kind of thing. The at-bats will be there, but compared to taking Brian Buxton, I'd much rather take Moore. But compared to Alex Verdugo, I think Alex Verdugo, I think he had 6 steals last year. So he was about on a 15, maybe 20 stolen base pace. The power wasn't there like Moore, but Moore had a really high strikeout rate. Verdugo's not a guy I would suggest in on base percentage league, maybe a 360. Compared to that 300 batting average, though, the reason I would say maybe avoid Verdugo in an on base is really because this is kind of how I look at it. When you're looking at the draft board in a on base percentage league, it's the draft board that site provides for a standard 5x5. So a guy like Verdugo is kind of pumped up because that 300 average plays up obviously a lot more in an average league than that 350, 360 on base percentage does. I know that 360 on base is still a great on base percentage, but you have 300 hitters like McNeil's a 380 on base guy, Conforto's a 370, 380 on base guy. So, and the power for Verdugo isn't the same. So in a slugging league too, you got to watch out for Verdugo. But the steals, I think, are slept on Alex Verdugo. I think a lot of people, remember when that trade happened, a lot of people gave the Dodgers shit. I was a big fan of it gave the Red Sox shit. I was a big fan of it for the Red Sox. I really love Verdugo. Okay, so 4 stolen bases. So you're maybe getting 10, 15 stolen bases max out of Verdugo. Only 6 home runs, 308 batting average, but he had 36 runs. The RBIs were lacking. I think maybe Verdugo and Gallo is a good pair. But I like Verdugo. I like the skills. And I think there's more power in that bat. He's only 24. It's not like we're talking about a guy like Morris, 28, 29. This is a guy who can grow. And dynasty owners, no one wants to get this guy up. This guy's a prized possession. So Verdugo is definitely a guy I like. On the opposite spectrum, Tommy Pham. He's older than people assume. I think he's about 32, 33. A very late bloomer. And for those that don't know, he actually got stabbed right when the offseason started. It's honestly horrific. And it really just, for a guy that's been injury plagued his whole career, it really makes me wary about Pham and his health and his ability to be on the field. And for that reason, Pham's on my do not draft list. And I was a big Pham fan the past 2 years. Guy didn't go 2020. Really solid player. Loved watching him play. Great at bats. I love his stance, but you can't take risks on guys like that. So just keep that in mind again with Tommy Pham. Tommy Edman going next. Said this again, not an Edman guy. Do not draft this. Really don't have too much more to say. If you want to hear why I don't like Edman so much, you can go to my second base video. Will Myers, though, going at pick 130. Will Myers, I remember he signed a big extension for the Padres back maybe 2015, and everyone was really hyped about him, and he just never really lived up to it. But he's aged a little bit now. He's 30, going into his age 30 season for the Padres. But he had a really great solid year last year. In 55 games, 15 home runs, 34 runs, 40 RBIs. The thing is, only 2 steals. He's had 20 and 28 stolen base seasons. There was a 286 average with a 350 on base, though. Strikeout rate was cut down to 25%. I think maybe the reason I'm buying into the Will Myers thing is because there is pedigree there. He was a pretty highly touted player. And I think he will be getting full-time. He will be, without doubt, be getting full-time at-bats for the San Diego Padres, especially with the concern with Pham. But he's going to be in that outfield every day. Projections have him getting 25 to 30 home runs, 90 runs, 90 RBIs, some of them. So I really like Will Myers here. From just a pure runs, RBIs, home runs perspective, I don't think it gets too much better than Will Myers at pick 130. Everyone else here kind of has question marks. Kyle Lewis, Yastrzemski, Laureano, Jorge Soler, Dylan Carlson. Those guys, not only is the playing time really with guys like Jorge Soler and Laureano, we're not sure if they're going to continue playing because they are, kind of streaky guys. But the power, I think, Myers has the highest power potential out of all those guys. 15 home runs in that shortened season. We could be looking at a 40-homer season next year for Will Myers. That's pretty tasty. Kyle Lewis, I like him a lot. But if you notice anything watching my videos, I kind of like to avoid risk. And as much as I would love to have Kyle Lewis, we're still only at pick 130. And there's still 3 or 4 guys going way later that I think could easily return Kyle Lewis's value and then some. So I guess I want to keep saying that because I don't want you guys to think that maybe I'm just hating on these guys, that I'm just overlooking them. But with this position more than any other position, I think there's a lot of diamond in the roughs going late. A lot of sleepers, as the industry would say. A lot of a lot of value really to be had at the outfield position. Carlson's a guy I get the hype for him. I get that everyone's really excited for him, and with Arenado being added to that lineup, I think that could definitely help him. Maybe Arenado could teach him some stuff, less pressure on him. Carlson's only 22. But the power really was just never... he had one really impressive power season. He had one season where he slugged above 430. Any season more than 100 at-bats. In AAA, in 79 plate appearances, he had 5 home runs. So I guess that's kind of what got him the call-up. But... the steals, I think the steals get overrated. He only had an 118 stolen base season, nothing else above 10. So again, you're not drafting Carlson for the steals. And an on-base percentage league, he's definitely more valuable. The plate discipline is great, but the power really isn't. I guess he would be. He would really kind of be good in a points league, maybe more so than a roto league because how good the plate discipline is. But not really a guy I'm too enamored with. Mountain Castle is a guy I'm a big fan of. A lot of pop in that bat. Going at pick 150. Here's an interesting guy, though, going at pick 157. I want to make a comp. Victor Robles, 157. Very interesting is that Victor Robles only had 4 stolen bases this year. He only had 3 home runs. He batted .222. So why is he getting drafted at pick 157 when Ramil Tapia, going 100 picks later, had 8 stolen bases? He got caught stealing twice, so same success rate as Victor Robles. He only had 1 home run, I get that. But he batted .320. And Tapia is slated to lead off for the Colorado Rockies. Robles is slated to bat 7th. This is a prime example, I think, of people paying up for steals at the expense of run production, of run RBIs and home runs production, is Victor Robles. I get that he's 23. I get that he has all the upside in the world, or he did at one point. I know he's only 23. It's hard to hate on the guy. He could sprout out next year and steal 30 bags. But the caught stealing, the success rate, even in his best season with when he had a good amount of stolen bases, it wasn't a good success rate. Even last year, only 4 stolen bases. I don't get why I would draft Victor Robles if Tapia is there 100 picks later. If Tapia is going to get more at bats next year, it's his spot in Colorado. Just keep that in mind. Victor Robles, to me, do not draft list. Dynasty is a different story. Maybe he's a guy you try to trade for, especially if you need steals. A guy you try to buy low on an owner. But in a redraft league at pick 157, I'd rather have Santander, Mountain Castle, Michael Brantley, a guy going 4 picks ahead of him. Michael Brantley, good for 20 home runs, a 300 average, like great lineup. He's not getting steals, but you can't draft these guys at pick 150 that are just maybe going to get you steals. And if Robles doesn't get you steals, he's not getting you anything. So that's my biggest, maybe it could be my biggest flaw as a fantasy player, but it's definitely my biggest trademark, I think, is I'm not as stolen base crazy as maybe some other people are. I don't like chasing steals. That's why I really like getting Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner might be my most drafted player this year because that's a guy who can get half my stolen bases for me, and he's going to have a good average. He's going to get good runs, RBIs, and he's at a premium position at shortstop. If it's outfielders and I get Tapia later as just my 5th outfielder, I would rather do that. Sorry for the rant, but Joey Gallo and Ian Happ are going at pick 162 and 164. Ian Happ had kind of a breakout year last year, and he has no playing time concerns now that Alomar got traded. I am maybe a little concerned that team is going to be getting taken down, and maybe he'll be getting taken down with it. I guess he has a couple years left as a free agent, so he's not getting expensive yet. 12 home runs last year, 258 average. So the average is never going to be there. Even in his best season so far, the average was max 264. But 12 home runs is pretty good. In comparison, in 462 at-bats in 2018, he only had 15 home runs. So even if that 12 home runs in a third of a season only gets doubled, that's still going to be tying his career high from his rookie year. So again, what happened though, the plate discipline improved, but the strikeout rate really hasn't shown too much improvement. And if I'm taking Happ here with the 250 average, and maybe I'm getting 25 home runs, and Gallo's going right there, I would really rather just take Gallo. I don't think it's even a question. They're both the same age. Happ's a year younger. Gallo had 2 less home runs last year, but he's had a 40 and a 41 home run season with 85 runs, 80 RBIs. He's had a 253 batting average season. I don't think that you're going to get that from him. Obviously, in on-base percentage, Gallo gained some value. Even then, though, his on-base, with that high strikeout rate just suffers so much. But I would just rather have Gallo, and I'm not the kind of guy to ever really chase these high strikeout guys. But I'd rather have Gallo because the home run and the runs and RBIs are just crazy for Gallo. I've really been finding that I don't really like maybe any of these guys going between. I don't think I'm really drafting any more than one guy from the outfield between pick 100 and pick 200. It's just not really. I'm getting a first baseman. I'm getting Chris Bryant at third base. I'm trying to get Alec Bohm if he's still there. I'm getting a pitcher or two, Marco Gonzalez, Kyle Hendricks. But I'm not really. None of these outfielders are really. None of them are impressive to me. I like Mountain Castle and Santander. I like Santander a lot more. Another guy, he's getting a lot of love, and I'm rooting for him probably more than anyone else this season, is Trey Mancini. But I want to compare him to another guy in Mitch Haniger. Both are coming back from very serious, Mancini more so, coming back from a very serious, life-threatening illness. He had cancer. Haniger coming back, hasn't played in 600 days. Haniger coming back from surgeries and has been out. Haniger, though, his ADP is 274. Mancini is going at 181. I almost feel like, and they both had basically the same types of seasons: 25 home runs, 90 runs, RBIs, 270, 280 batting average. They're very similar players, but I kind of think all this love Mancini's getting is really boosting his ADP, because 181 for a guy who's such a huge risk, and not only a risk, but my main concern with Mancini, like it is for Haniger, is that they just won't be able to withstand the full season anymore. Their managers are gonna have to rest them, and that's to be expected. But why would I draft Mancini at 181 if I can get Haniger 100 picks later? Haniger is a guy I haven't drafted yet, but I'm getting intrigued by him. I'm really kind of waiting for spring training news with that, and also to engage in more redrafts to get Haniger. He is 30. Mancini, I think, is around the same age, 29. But a guy going right next to Mancini, going a couple picks later, is Clint Frazier. I know the Yankees did sign Brett Gardner, and I'm pissed about that, frankly. I have Frazier in my main dynasty league, my first dynasty league, my biggest my big one, and I'm mad that the Yankees got Brett Gardner, frankly, because that's going to cut into Clint Frazier's at bats without a doubt. I don't think Clint Frazier's defense is as bad as his reputation is. I think people forget that concussion really did mess with him, and I think I know he gets a bad rep because of some of the stuff he says, but dude had 8 home runs in 39 games last year. 8 home runs. So he only played 2/3 of the 1/3 season. So he really, I'm not trying to say you can't do this. He really had 12 home runs, which really goes out to 30 home runs. I think this guy has 35 home runs in that bat. He had a 267 average and an unreal 394 on base. I don't know how he did that, but his BABIP was in line with his career. The BABIP was nothing crazy. The walk rate was just absurd, 15%. I mean, it's Bryce Harper-esque. So projections have him for 74 runs, 70 RBIs, 23 home runs. And unfortunately, I think that's right on the money. And I was hoping this would be an 85 plus, 90 plus guy, similar to Conforto, frankly. But I think it's because this Brett Gardner signing. It's because the Yankees always have to fit guys like Tauchman and the 4 or 5 outfielders, Hicks. But I will say this. You have Hicks, you have Stan, you have Judge. All 3 of those guys are some of the highest injury risk players in all of fantasy. They all happen to be in baseball, and they all happen to be outfielders for the same team. So if there's a will, there's a way. I think Clint Frazier can get that 650 plate appearances. He can hit 30 home runs. He can get 85 plus runs and RBIs. So Clint Frazier at pick 184 is another guy I find myself taking in almost any draft I can get him in. Of course, it's hard because people are getting in on him. Another guy I like to comp to him is Jesse Winker. I think Jesse Winker has the same power potential. Winker becomes especially more intriguing in an on-base percentage league, but most fantasy players are well aware. Winker's going at 209. Funny enough, one guy going 3 picks before Jesse Winker, a guy I thought about drafting a couple times, but I looked up the Blue Jays projected lineup, and he's not in the projected lineup. Winker's probably batting 2nd, 3rd, or 4th for that Reds team, maybe leading off. I mean, he's a great 370 on-base percentage guy. Grichuk doesn't have a spot anymore for that Blue Jays team. Don't freaking draft Grichuk. Do not draft Grichuk. They have to trade him. When they trade him, yeah, draft him. But do not draft Randall Grichuk when he doesn't have a starting spot. I don't care if he's going at pick 300. You can get guys like Nimmo and Tapia who are guaranteed to start at least 90% of the games for their teams. So Grichuk is a waste of a pick at pick 206. Please do not draft Grichuk at pick 206. So we're getting into pick 200 territory now. The guy at pick 200 for the Los Angeles Dodgers, former 30-30, 20-20 guy, A.J. Pollock. A.J. Pollock has been just like Aaron Hicks and Judge, riddled with injuries. He's now going into his age 33 season, but he had basically a career year last year. This dude had 16 home runs in the shortened season. I mean, I know you can't pace, but that's at least 30 home runs, if not 45 home runs. The on-base percentage, though, is 314. How did he manage this? How did A.J. Pollock manage to hit 16 home runs with a 314 on base? That is insane. That's nuts. That being said, with Jock Peterson being out, it seems like, I know the Dodgers like to do the little games at the platoons, but Pollock is a righty in a lineup that features so many lefties. So it's hard not to see him getting the bulk of the at-bats. Projection system have him getting 130 games. If he can stay healthy, that gives him 30 home runs and 88 runs, 88 RBIs. And they have him projected for 11 steals. I don't frankly see that. 2 stolen bases last year. And he's 33, he's getting older. If they have him for that, I guess Michael Brantley's getting 10, 11 home runs too. But Pollock is another guy. I'm very intrigued. I'm paying more attention to him more and more now. Another guy, a lot of these guys who have been injury prone, like him, Haniger, Mancini, these are guys you got to be glued to during spring training. If there's any sign or any type of mention of anything, you hop off. You make sure not to draft them in your drafts. But these are very interesting, intriguing guys with a lot of upside, with 30 home run upside, going at pick 200. That's late round value right there in drafts. It's the main reason I was fading all those early outfielders. Eli Jimenez, I mean, AJ Pollock might return the same production as Eli Jimenez this year. So, to me, this outfield crop is very, very intriguing late. We haven't even got to guys like Jock Peterson, J.D. Davis. A lot of interesting guys left to talk about for this outfield position. It was announced today that Jared Kanelich should be, if not, he is definitely going to be playing in the 2021 season. Going at pick 220, that's definitely a guy you should keep your eyes on. Huge power potential for the Mariners. Definitely a guy you put in your queue and try to get him late in the draft and hold. And going right after him is J.D. Davis. I was getting pretty hyped for J.D. Davis as it was looking like the Mets weren't going to get Bryant, weren't going to get Arenado. But unfortunately, they did get Jonathan Villar. I know Villar isn't going to be starting every day. And I don't even think Villar is not necessarily good at third base defense because Davis's biggest knock is his defense sucks. But that cuts into Davis's at-bats, and that's something you always got to keep in mind on. Keep your eye on it, guys. That cuts into J.D. Davis's at-bats. I really do think it sucks. Again, another reason it sucks the Mets don't have the DH is because J.D. Davis gets affected, Dom Smith gets affected. But that being said, at 220, I'm still interested in J.D. Davis a lot. He's hit 300 before. He has great skills, great power to the opposite fields. But he's not the kind of guy you draft hoping to get full-time at-bats. Funny enough, going 50 picks after him, Brandon Nimmo at pick 260 will without a doubt get more at-bats than J.D. Davis. He's manning center field right now for the Mets. So J.D. Davis, I would kind of fade him in favor of Brandon Nimmo going a little later, especially in on-base percentage leagues. Nimmo is a 400 on-base guy, but the average too, I think, he had 270 last year. I think he could be a 270 hitter. He's shown he has a great approach. He's able to go with the ball. And there's definitely some pop in that bat. I think it gets slept on. I think there is 20 home runs in that bat. Maybe one day 25. He is getting older, 27, 28. But, he came back from a back injury. The guy has skills, and you really don't see you don't ever see a guy with a 400 on base percentage that can't hit 20 home runs. That might seem like an inflammatory remark, an exaggeration. It's very rare, though. I would really like to see that. I'm going to do a little quick cue right now on my Excel. I'm going to look at who in the past 2 seasons combined has an on-base percentage of 400 plus. So we only have 4 guys. These guys are Andrew Stevenson, Mike Trout, Juan Soto, and Christian Yelich. So with the exception of Andrew Stevenson, who's with an extremely small sample size of only 84 plate appearances, that's Mike Trout, Juan Soto, and Christian Yelich are the only guys in the past 2 years that have had on-base percentage above 400. All have a lot of home runs. And below them, Giancarlo Stanton, Mark Canha, Brennan Nimmo, Cody Bellinger. So if that gives you any type of idea. And 13th on this list, right below Mookie Betts and Bryce Harper, is Brandon Nimmo. Just give you these and 2 things below him, below Randy Arozarena and George Springer, is Michael Conforto. I hate to sound like a Mets homer, but these are the only 3 guys on one team in the top 20. That's the only team like that. 3 guys in the top 20 of on-base percentage in the past 2 years. That's an impressive bunch right there. Just the point I'm trying to make with Nimmo is he has by far, for anyone with 100 plus plate appearances out of those guys, by far the least amount of home runs. But I really think there is power in that bat because I don't think you get pitched around like that unless pitchers know something. I know there is a debate among writers, and not a debate, but there's a conversation always about what public is not available to, what data is not available to the public. For those that don't know, there's some data by teams, actually a lot of data, some of the StatCast X-esque data that we just don't have access to as regular plainclothes citizens. We're just not privy to some of this information. So I think there might be some information as to, because why are pitchers pitching on Brandon Nimmo if he's this slapdick sort of hitter that everyone likes to act like he is? If he's this sort of scrawny little guy, then why are pitchers pitching around him then? Even when Daniel Murphy was the feared 340 hitter, batting average of 340, his on-base percentage wasn't 400. Even D. Gordon, when he was hitting the ball like that. You want to know why? Because as much as these guys had great bat-to-ball skills, pitchers weren't scared enough about them. And maybe also, too, they didn't know how to take the walk. Nimmo maybe just doesn't take the walk. Maybe to his eye so good. But you would think then that pitchers would challenge him more. If the power's really not there for Nimmo, then why don't pitchers challenge him? It's a conundrum to me. He's going to pick 260, Career 390 on base percentage. I think career 390, if not 400 on base percentage. It's 380 in the past, 385 in the past 2 years. I've been accused of being a Mets homer. I'm definitely a huge Mets fan, and I definitely love guys like McNeil, Conforto, Nimmo, but I don't know how much of that is really wrong. I mean, I'm looking at this list right now of the top on base percentages, and Conforto and McNeil, and then JD Davis at 22nd. They're right next to guys like Judge. They're above Chris Bryant. They're above Ozuna. I know that's only on base percentage, but that's one of the most important skills. And of course, keep that in mind for an on base percentage league, not batting average, that these guys are definitely good guys to target. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there's something up with Nimmo, and there's something he could tap into, and I think there is 20 to 25 home runs in that bat. And he should be leading off, and he should be getting 90 runs. It's just about playing time with these Mets guys. Going at pick 260, Brandon Nimmo. A guy I mentioned earlier before, Raimel Tapia for the Colorado Rockies. Now, I know the Rockies do screw around with guys and prospects. This is not a prospect, though, but maybe, they'll give another guy a chance and he won't get the spot. But it's projected for Tapia to get 600 plate appearances for this Rockies team. That being said, the home run is very, very scarce. Even then, with only 10 home runs, he's projected to have 74 runs and 60 RBIs. This is the best part. 15 steals to 20 steals with a 277 average. I'm all over this. I know that power is bad with only 10 home runs. But compare this to what I was saying with Victor Robles going 100 rounds before, or a lot of these guys people are targeting 100 rounds before. Tapia has more stolen base upside than them. It's not just 10 stolen bases. 15 and 20, he had 8 last year, so he could get 25, 30 if everything goes right. Tapia going to pick 260. I'm just going to say, if you need steals late, Tapia is your guy at the outfield position. I'm going to fade John Birdie, another stolen base guy I liked last year, just because I think it's getting a little crowded there in Miami. They're giving their prospects time. Birdie's a great utility. He's going to get his at-bats, but he's also 5 years older than Tapia. So I'm saying if you're debating between Tapia and Birdie, I'm saying full ahead it's Tapia, not even a question in my eyes. Mark Canha, another guy. Surprised to see him this late. He was going about 220 earlier last year. Mark Canha 264. These are just these outfield guys who are, like I said with JD Davis and Jesse Winker and Clint Frazier. These guys can return extremely, extremely high value. There must be a reason, though, of course, that they're going this late. Mark Canha, only 5 home runs last year. With that measly 5 home runs, though, he had a 387 on base. 32 runs, 33 RBIs, a little forced chip and steals, great walk rate. Something I like to look at with guys like this. Maybe I'll look at this with Nimmo after this. 387 on base, only 5 home runs. So I want to look at his home run to fly ball rate. Let's see what his home run, for those that don't know, I know it could be self-explanatory, but what percentage of his fly balls went for home runs? Last year, career low of 8% for Mark Canha. His 2018 season, 15%. His 2019 season, 20%. Another guy who had a career low was Ketel Marte. That's the only reason I'm into Ketel Marte. If a guy has a career low home run to fly ball rate, but the on base percentage stayed there, I'm kind of really into this with Mark Canha. A 7%. He's probably gonna normalize back to a 13%. Very interested in that with Mark Canha. Now let's take a look at Nimmo's on home run to fly ball rate. And for those of you that don't know, you use Fangraphs. I guess because I want to be able to provide you guys with tools so that you can do your own, so that you can formulate and synthesize your own sort of assumptions and theories, like me with the home run to fly ball rate, or people like looking at BABIP. And I just think it's really important. I know you guys all probably know about it, but Fangraphs is probably the most important tool we have as fantasy baseball players. I know StatCast is very popular, but to me, Fangraphs gives me a lot more insight into the type of player I'm looking at, and it gives you the actual stats. So Brandon Nimmo last year, 8 home runs. That's not bad. Projects to about 25 home runs. 404 on base. The thing with Nimmo, he's probably never had a high home run to fly ball rate. He's never really tapped into it. I'm wrong, 17% last year. So if anything, that could regress a little bit, but that's in line with his career. 12%, 17, 16, 17. So Nimmo is probably maxed at a 25 home run guy, but the projection systems have him hitting 15 next year. I think that's on the low side. They have him getting 110 games too. With him and JD Davis, I don't get that. I don't know what they think the Mets are going to be doing. I don't know how these guys don't each get 130 games. But we'll see. I'll be paying close attention. But if Nimmo only gets 110 at bats, I completely get why. He is so low in the ADP. I maybe what it was is people were thinking Mets were gonna get an outfielder, and I know they got Alomar and Pilar, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with them with Nimmo, Smith, and JD Davis with at bats, because whoever gets the bulk of those at bats is gonna be extremely valuable, especially if it's Nimmo or JD Davis. They're going to have double the value of what they're drafted at. They'll be top 150 players, and they're going past pick 200. So Mark Canha, low home run to fly ball rate last year. Definitely into that. The on-base percentage league, definitely look into him. Alex Kirilloff, pick 268. Very interesting minor league guy. He's definitely going to be playing for the Twins next year. Not too much to say, not too much power. Really good hit tool, though, so good batting average. You can't really go wrong with any of these guys really at pick 270. Well, no, I'm not going to take that back. You can go wrong with some of these guys past 270. But what it's more about, it's not really more about, it's more about focusing what guys you can go wrong with than what guys, than differentiating between the guys that are there. You really, especially past pick 250, you really got to be looking at this ADP data that I look at for these episodes. I don't want to preach or sound like a condescending dick, and I know it probably does sound like that because I probably am. But as much as it's great to listen to people talking about fantasy baseball, to listen to the podcasts, to read the articles, and to ingest the content, I think the most important stuff you can do is going on Fangraphs, sorting through different things on the leaderboard, sorting through whether it's xWOBA, slugging, batting average, stolen base, RBIs, going through that and going through and looking at the NFBC ADP data. It's in the link in every description of my videos, NFC ADP data, and looking and before you get in a draft, basically getting a sense of you see a guy going to pick 270, copy and paste him into the browser and pull him up on Fangraphs and see why David Peralta is probably actually a pretty good pick at 270, or why if Mitch Haniger can play 120, 130 games at pick 274, he's going to turn immense value if he can reproduce anything near his career year. But to get to a guy that I'm just avoiding at all costs now is Yasiel Puig. I was a huge Puig guy the past couple of years. Loved watching him play. I loved the personality. I thought the Dodgers made a mistake, frankly, when they traded him. I was wrong. They won the World Series without him. But he was one of the only hitters for them that could show up and hit in the postseason. I thought it was a really weird thing for them. But they got Mookie Betts. They replaced him, so it's not too big of a deal. But Puig is looking like he may not even sign. So just for those of you that aren't aware, really avoid Puig. He may not be going anywhere. Nick Senzel, though, for the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds projected lineup. Let me pull that up real quick. I just put any team projected lineup. It gives you rotochamp.com. Now I probably give this a little more, way too much more weight than it deserves, but it basically gives me an idea. And this doesn't make sense to me that they have Jesse Winker batting 7th, Tyler Naquin batting 3rd. I don't think Naquin's gonna be batting 3rd. Maybe it's a righty-lefty thing. Maybe Naquin's lefty. I'm not even sure. Akiyama leading off if he bounces back, but they don't even have Nick Senzel in the lineup. Now, then what else I like to do is, again, go back to Fangraphs and look at how many at-bats the different projection system have him. This becomes really important when you're getting to the late rounds. Something I've definitely made a mistake in the past with fantasy is really not, I would be like, oh, projections are silly. And no, I get why they are in a sense. And I do understand that. But projections really inform you of a guy has to play to get you runs and RBIs. So he's not projecting the lineup by RotoChamp, but the projection systems have him getting 500 plate appearances, 17 home runs, 72 runs, 60 RBIs with 15 steals. Nick Senzel, if he can do that, and that's a conservative projection system, if he can do that, that's immense value at pick 270. Again, you got to keep your eye on spring training. You got to maybe put in your Google Reds and then click on the news tab, or Reds Nick Senzel, and see what's being talked about with these guys. Now that we're getting closer and closer to spring training, you can get more of an edge by really checking in as much as you can, seeing if another guy on the Reds goes down. So maybe even more important than news about Nick Senzel is just a specific guy, like instead of just Nimmo, if another Mets outfielder goes down, if God forbid Michael Conforto goes down, I hate jinxing that, But if Akiyama goes down for the Reds, if Tyler Naquin goes down for the Reds, that guarantees Nick Senzel is going to be starting every day, high in the lineup. So injuries, as effed up as it sounds, injuries create opportunities, and opportunities that can be seized on with these late round draft picks. Scott Kingery is a guy I was really into. I thought that when the Phillies gave him that really good extension, I thought, okay, to get back to the point I made about private versus public data, I thought that was something that indicated that there was private preferential data on Scott Kingery that showed that it was a no-brainer for the Phillies. It turns out the Phillies kind of just made a mistake with that extension. There's really no reason for it. He got like a 6-year, $50 million extension or something when he only played a couple games, or I don't even think he played a game yet. I think I might have said, I thought Kingery's gonna be the next Chase Utley. Like, the hit tool is just so good, but like he's looking like, you know, he might not even get a starting spot. So I'm really avoiding Scott Kingery. He's a fun guy to speculate on, but I've been burned the past 3 years. I'm not getting burned again. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Kind of George Bush that one, but Kingery's not a guy I'm too concerned of getting. Not a guy I'm targeting at all. On the other hand, Avisel Garcia for the Milwaukee Brewers, slated to bat fifth. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm very, very into that because the Brewers lineup and the bench is very thin. So I think he'll be playing. He's another guy, posted a low home run to fly ball rate last year. I think 5 or 6% when he's a 15% guy. So he only had, I think, 3 or maybe 5 home runs. I'm interested in that at 323. I'm not getting Kingery. I'm going to get Avisel Garcia for the Milwaukee Brewers. Way less competition in that lineup, frankly. 3 guys going in a row for outfielders. The 84th, 85th, and 86th outfielders taken off the board. Alex Dickerson, Jock Peterson, and Willie Calhoun. If you're playing in a 3 outfielder league, this is a prime example as to why you should not get outfielders too early. Because show me any other position where you have guys as good as these going this late. I know maybe Willie Calhoun isn't too known. I get that. I talked about him last year and I said keep his name in mind. And he was horrible last year. But I will make an excuse for myself. Something I frankly do a lot is that Willie Calhoun got hit by a pitch in spring training. That freaking F's guys up. And even with that, his strike area, it was still only 15%. He only batted 190, but his BABIP was 214. He was a 260 BABIP guy for his career. So say that BABIP goes back to 260 and nothing else changes. That gives him a 250 batting average, which is fine. Which is just maybe a 240 batting average, which is fine. It's nothing crazy. But we're talking about a guy who in 83 games in 2019 hit 21 home runs. Now, okay, maybe he had an inflated home run to fly ball ratio. And I don't want to sound repetitive, but I guess I want to give you insight into how you judge the flukiness of a season. So in that great season, he had an 18%. He did have a 16% in 2017, but the other 2 seasons were 6%, and last year only 3%. So let's put it in the middle. Let's say 11% is what his career norm is. That's gonna from 3% to 11%. That's gonna triple his home runs. That will at least triple his home runs if nothing else changes. That we're still only talking about 3 home runs, but he only played 100 and he only played 30 games. So that turns to 6 home runs in a short season. That turns to 25 home runs with a full season. I think honestly he's a 25 homer guy. The minor league stats are not shown up here on Fangraphs, but this guy in the minors just hit, doesn't strike out, very safe profile. He should be batting second or third for the Rangers team. I'm a big Willie Calhoun guy. Again, it's this 2019 season for me that really gets me excited. In 330 plate appearances, 21 home runs, 51 runs, 48 RBIs, no stolen bases, but a 270 average. Those counting stats right there. If he cannot double him, because doubling him that'd be 650 at bat. So doubling him isn't unrealistic. That's a 40 home run, 100 run, 100 RBI guy right there in Willie Calhoun. Going at pick 370, 356. Alex Dickerson too, pick 390. I'm all over Alex Dickerson. I just drafted him in a deeper dynasty league. Not the best guy for dynasty. He's 30, but the skills should age good. I don't like to talk about dynasty stuff too much because honestly, I'm not really a good prospect guy. I'm pretty bad when it comes to the prospect stuff. I really focus on the major league guys, and I really try to focus on guys who I think could break out. And I remember saying that I think both the Dickersons could really put it together, because they've always showed. I don't know if they're related. I don't know if they're brothers. I know I could Google it, but it's just very weird that to me it's very weird that the Dickersons have such similar profiles, Alex and Corey. Both guys who strike out 15% of the time have decent walk rates, but the on base is just never really that is there. Even with a 9% walk rate one year, he only had a 3.33 on base. But he had a career tie for 10 home runs. Alex Dickerson did in only 170 plate appearances. So I think 25 home runs could be the norm. I think maybe he tapped into something. 371 on base, 298 average. It's a small sample size, obviously, but it's just as big as basically anyone else from this season. Home run to fly ball rate, I'm guessing was a little inflated. 20% home run, so double his career average. Now, did he tap into something different? Did he change his approach? Because that's a very extreme from a guy who's been at 10% for his whole career to just double it like that. His ground ball rate, his fly ball rate was actually down, but his ground ball rate was up. So there's nothing really to indicate. His pull percentage was the same. His hard hit rate was the same. But he's going so late, and he's always had such great bat-to-ball skills, and I'm taking the chance on Alex Dickerson. And if you don't believe in the power that Dickerson showed, and you don't believe in the stuff that Willie Calhoun showed, then take the guy going in between them. Jock Peterson at pick 345. You know Jock Peterson has 30 home run pop. At least 30 home run pop. And you know now with the Cubs, he's going to be playing every day for them. And he should be at a pretty comfy spot in the lineup, especially if Bryant ends up getting traded. Let's see. I'm going to guess they have him batting fourth now with Schwarber out. They basically did a swap. They let go of Schwarber and got Jock Peterson. They got him batting sixth. Okay, that makes sense. Ian Happ leading off, Rizzo second, Bryant third, Contreras fourth, Baez fifth, Peterson sixth. So if something happens to Baez and Bryant, he will be batting fourth. It's definitely likely. Peterson, age 28. He had 36 home runs for the Dodgers in 2019. Has never had one season with more than 145 games in 2015. Only 26 home runs. But that was his rookie year. And even that with a 210 average, 346 on base. Definitely a guy you keep your eye on for a batting average league. In 43 games last year, 7 home runs. The homers are just going to be there. He's a 30 home run guy. Really, really like Jock Peterson late in drafts. And I think with a guy that's 28, I think he could have a career year. It could be in front of him. After Calhoun, Peterson, and Dickerson, though, we get to Joe Adell and Jackie Bradley Jr. JBJ has yet to sign. He's not going back to Boston, it looks like. Joe Adell is probably starting the minors. These are two guys I'm not touching. They're not draft list, without a doubt. After that was Corey Dickerson. I saw him slated to be batting, I think, first or second for the Marlins. I might honestly like him more than Alex Dickerson because there's less of an at-bat fight. There's a lot of guys now in the Giants, but that Austin Slater, who I think should probably get more time over Alex Dickerson. But there's definitely a jam in San Francisco that's not there in Miami. And Dickerson is definitely an interesting option. He had a pretty good year last year. It's like I said, it's pretty interesting how he's so similar to Alex Dickerson. I don't think there's any relation. 31, a year older. They're both lefty batters. 7 home runs last year for Corey Dickerson. Compared to Alex Dickerson, what's interesting about Corey Dickerson is he's had 27 home runs, 24 home runs, 2 seasons with 24 home runs. The power has been there for him in the past. And what happened though was he left Tampa Bay. He started walking less and he started striking out less. So maybe he got a little too focused on contact. Then again, his batting average did drop, but he was able to boost that batting average back up and hit 27 home runs. The on base was 325. His 2017 season, the Tampa Bay let him play in 150 games, 27 home runs, 84 runs, 62 RBIs. Pretty impressive. Never going to steal your bases. But he's projected to get 20 home runs, 66 runs, 68 RBIs with a 260 average for the Miami Marlins. And going this late in drafts, a 20-60-60 or 20-70-70, it's not the sexiest thing, but that wins you some leagues. Because if you take, let's say you take Scott Kingery instead. Kingery goes 10-40-40 or 10-50-50. Or maybe not even 10 home runs because you get the playing time. Or Brian Reynolds gets you 5 home runs, 40-40. Corey Dickerson's going 15 round later than both those guys. Definitely keep your eye on him. Some other guys that I think you should definitely avoid, specifically, is Kevin Pillar. Kevin Pillar, it was with the Mets now. He's not going to be playing he's going to be playing in maybe a fifth of the games, and I hope that doesn't happen. But definitely don't want to do anything with Kevin Pillar now with the Mets. One more guy though that I'm interested in is Adam Duvall for the Marlins. He's going to be playing every day too, like Corey Dickerson for that team. The power's there, the average is not, the on base is not, but it's a pure home run play at pick 392. And next to him is Franchy Cordero. He was in the Benintendi trade. I actually forgot to talk about Benintendi. I think it's mostly because I've been wrong about Benintendi. Quite frankly, I'm always a big hit tool guy, and I always thought Benintendi was going to be able to tap into some more power, but he's not even able to tap into his batting average anymore. It's pretty troubling. Franchy Cordero is a guy with a lot of good StatCast metrics, good sprint speed, good hard hit rate, but he's never put it together. Only got 16 at bats last year. Really, he's never had a season of more than 40 games. Nothing really in the Fangraph stuff to really make any conclusions about. But the projections have him getting 100 games played, 16 home runs, 8 steals. If the at bats come more, we're looking at a 25 home run, 15 steal guy. So Cordero, again, these are for your deeper leagues. He's going at pick 370. 390. This is for the deepest of leagues. And I was kind of like to do a quick little recap and kind of honestly, I really thought about starting this video and maybe starting some of these videos now instead of starting from an ADP of 1 and working my way down to like 50 or 100. Notice I don't know if for those of you that are on YouTube you can see it, but for those of you that are on iTunes and Spotify, I'm now at the 97th outfielder taken off the board in Franchy Cordero. And I really let me know in the comments if you think I should, if in the next videos you want me to start backwards from the ADP. Because for those of you that don't know, basically the way I get the fuel for these videos, the thing that sparks my my conversation, my remarks, is I really I find I do best when I just kind of look at the ADP and give my thoughts on if I like the guy there. I do have rankings. I try to avoid using my rankings more and more though, and look more pure based on the stats and what I think of the guys. And let me know if you want me to try doing a video, or if you think it would be a better idea to do the videos from 100 ADP down to 1. And my theory on why that might be better is from a pure getting an advantage in your fantasy league. You know, how important is it? How much differentiation is there between the first 20 guys compared to the last 20 guys? And how much more important is it to focus, I think, in drafts on these guys going later as opposed to these guys going early in drafts where you really can't make a bad pick in your first 20 picks. You really can't. Not in your first 20 picks, I mean in a draft, but picking the first 20 outfielders. Any of the first 20 outfielders are going to be great players. Maybe one or two of them will be down. The older ones like Marte or Whit Merrifield will go bad, but that's just being aware of age or being aware of someone that gets hurt. But I think maybe I'll try that for starting pitcher, is start from the back and work my way up. Because do you need to hear me tell you how good DeGrom and Garrett Cole are and Shane Bieber are? Or do you want me to tell you guys that you can get late in drafts that are sleepers and that can return great value? So like I said, I'm gonna work down from the back. Just name the names real quick that I think are interesting guys to target late in drafts. Going after pick 300, Corey Dickerson, Willie Calhoun, Jock Peterson, Alex Dickerson, Avisel Garcia. Now going between pick 250 and pick 300, Nick Senzel, Mitch Haniger, David Peralta, Alex Kirilloff, Mark Canha, Brandon Nimmo, Ramiel Tapia. Going from pick 200 to 250, J.D. Davis, Jared Kanelik. Jesse Winker has really always been a big Jesse Winker guy. Really the guy I want to hone in on the most. It almost seems like Votto transferred some of his skills to him. Jesse Winker, A.J. Pollock. You can keep your eye on McCutchen and Schwarber. Well, consider McCutchen definitely more in on base percentage league. For me, the reason I'm not into Schwarber really at all is because I get Jock Peterson almost 200 picks later. And I really do think maybe the Cubs made a good deal by letting him go and getting Jock Peterson. Maybe actually I should scratch that. I'm saying it as if the Cubs had to draft these guys. They're paying them the same amount of money. But I guess people that are drafting Kyle Schwarber over so much ahead of Jock Peterson, I don't really get it. Maybe there's more pop in Schwarber's bat, but I'm not really getting that, honestly. Lineups are pretty similar. So let me know what you think about that one specifically, because that's something I always keep in mind. Schwarber and Jock Peterson, like, do you think Schwarber is going to have a better season? And if so, is it going to be worth that many more picks? We're talking, what, 3 more home runs? The batting average isn't going to be too much better. Let me know. Kyle Schwarber or Jock Peterson. And that's with the 200 ADP difference. Keep that in mind. I'm not saying they're going at the same price, because they're not. 200 ADP difference between Schwarber and Jock Peterson. Clint Frazier, Joey Gallo, Ryan Mountcastle, Will Myers, Alex Verdugo, Jeff McNeil, Nick Castellanos, Michael Conforto. We're getting into pick 100 through 50. Trent Grisham. See, maybe now come back to these guys. Do you see now why maybe I'm not really too crazy about Aaron Judge or George Springer? I can understand people being crazy about a Rosarena because of stolen bases, but Judge and Springer aren't stealing your bases. I'm not too crazy about Marcell Ozuna with some of these guys I can get later in drafts, like Clint Frazier, Jesse Winker, Joey Gallo, even just going 40 picks later, Michael Conforto and Castellanos especially. Those are 2 really good guys to target. Castellanos and Michael Conforto. Bryce Harper, obviously. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need to tell you that obviously Ronald Acuna, Mookie Betts, Juan Soto, Mike Trout are good targets. I'll probably end up doing a post-pick 200 video after I finish the positional previews. This was the outfield video in its entirety. I will be getting to starting pitchers next and relief pitchers. I plan to have those done midway through March, 2 weeks before the season starts. It's been fun making these videos. It's been fun watching the channel grow. Every time I check in on some of these videos, the views double. It's very nice to see that. My Twitter and Instagram are in the description. The Fantasy Baseball Show on Instagram and the Fantasy Base Show on Twitter. Links are in the description. The links for the ADP data is in the description. And like I said, let me know if you think it'd be interesting if I did the starting pitcher video from the 100 ADP down to 1. And let me know if you think there's too big of a difference between Jock Peterson and Kyle Schwarber, and maybe what I'm missing in that regard. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with your friends. I mean, I know you don't want to share it with your league mates, but it's always nice when people share the channel. And I really do want to hear your comments. I really do like hearing when you guys point out something that I'm probably overlooking, because I definitely do overlook guys. I definitely underrate guys, and there probably are some guys I overrate. But let me know why maybe you think Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez are worth it at the 35, pick 35. Let me know why you think maybe Marcell Ozuna and George Springer are good picks at where they are. How are they separated from Conforto and Nick Castellanos? Hope you guys have a good one. Season's a month away, guys. Fantasy season in full effect. I'm really excited for this one. Going to be a full season. It's going to feel really nice after that 60-game season, having 162 games. I don't want to jinx it, but that's the video, guys. Hope you have a good one, and see you next time.